a career takes strategy. I spent so much time and energy doing strategy for my clients and the brands I was working with, and it literally never occurred to me that I needed to think about my career strategically.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Name Drop Podcast. Today we're sitting down with a super smart strategist based here in New York City who has recently taken a big career pivot, and will be talking to us a little bit about what that has looked like, how her experiences in marketing and advertising have contributed to some of the strengths and opportunities that she is facing now. And I think you all will really enjoy the episode. So thanks for tuning in. So we're going to start with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So I'll ask a question.
Let's do it.
You tell me. What was your dream job as a kid?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Did you?
Yes, I loved animals. I loved science. And then by the time I became a teenager, that sort of like morphed into like a surgeon or some kind of doctor.
Okay.
And then I realized how much school you need to do. And I was just not prepared to like sign up for that.
Yeah.
So pivoted.
Are you still an animal lover?
I love animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's at the core.
Yeah.
I like it. What song do you know every single word to?
The first thing that came to my mind was Tiny Dancer by Elton John. My oldest loved that song, and I played it for her. We have like a bedtime Spotify list, and it's like filled with like, classic rock kind of stuff. And that was the song that she played, at bedtime every night for many, many, many years.
I love that.
She is also a dancer.
Is she?
Yeah, she is.
I love that. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ice cream.
Oh.
I don't know, does that count?
Yeah, that counts.
Does that count?
That counts.
Like nutrition,
Yeah, that counts.
Okay.
What flavor?
So I'm an equal opportunity ice cream lover. I think you worked at Ben & Jerry's for a long time, right? I love Ben & Jerry's. There are probably like half a dozen pints of Ben & Jerry's in my freezer right now. So equal opportunity, ice cream lover, pretty much all flavors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference on like chunky or smooth?
I like the chunk.
Do you?
Yeah.
I
like the things. I like a lot of things. I like things in
I
it.
don't want to have to chew it.
Yeah.
It kind of bothers me a little
That's
bit.
fair.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting free like cookies.
Yeah. Have you been to
like,
Cafe?
don't count
Have you
those.
been to Cafe Pana in Williamsburg yet?
I have not. No.
You got to go.
Williamsburg is like it's like in another country.
I know. I feel like it's like the ice cream spot right now that everyone's talking. You know how like EMAC and Bolio's had a moment, like everyone's had their moment. This is their moment.
Okay.
It's really good.
All right.
I would recommend. Window or aisle seat?
Window seat.
Me too.
Window seat. Yeah, I like a place to put my head down.
Me too. And I want to see outside. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's one thing on your bucket list?
I really want to visit Japan.
That's a good one.
That's it.
It's worth it.
Got to get there.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so without telling us who you are, what's top of mind professionally? What things are you thinking about these days?
Okay, so without telling you who I am, I recently made a little bit of a pivot, actually a lot of a pivot in my career, and I am now basically running a small business in an industry that is very new to me. So top of mind for me is really like tackling that learning curve in the industry and helping this business to stabilize and grow and scale and positioning the business properly. And, it's a family business. So I'm really taking like 25 years of no strategy, shoot from the hip, like successful, but almost like in spite of itself in a way, and wrangling it and giving it like structure and purpose and kind of operational rigor and all of that kind of stuff. And so for me, the nuances of doing something like that at a family scale is just fascinating. And I'm really working hard to navigate that. And it's been really fun.
That's awesome. Is your family involved in the business?
My family is involved in the business. Yeah, so I'm working for my father.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
which has been such a gift. It's been such a gift.
Yeah.
The reason that I made this pivot in my career, and there are quite a few reasons kind of like mashed up together, but the primary sort of catalyst was my dad turning 75. He's slowing down. And I kind of realized like he doesn't have an exit plan, and he deserves an exit plan. You know, he deserves to enjoy his retirement. And I felt like I had a lot to offer to the business. And so I'm doing that. And it's been so rewarding to work alongside him and see him in a different light than, I always have. And to have that kind of relationship with him that's so different than we've ever had before. And to see him every day at this age, the fact that I get to spend so much time with him has been such a gift.
Yeah, that's special. Yeah. That's really special. And has he been doing this his whole career?
So my dad is a photographer by training.
Okay.
His early training, like in his youth. And he's an immigrant. When he first came to New York, he went into the printing business. So this was in like the 70s, 80s. And he's always been an entrepreneur. And part of the challenge and opportunity with this business is it's run by a person and it has been run for 25 years by a person who has never had a corporate professional job. Mm-hmm. And so he has never really known what it looks like to structure a business in that way. Right. And he's kind of like put it together with spit and glue, and it's worked great in many respects. So credit to him. But he was in the printing business. He owned his own business, and he pivoted in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s when digital started emerging and the printing industry just started shrinking. There is no real printing industry anymore. Yeah. It's very, very, very small. And he saw the writing on the wall. And he himself pivoted. And he had the opportunity to purchase this really small, I'm not going to say what it is. This really small business. And he did. And he learned this industry himself. Wow. And he's grown it from there. Yeah, so he's done it for about 25 years.
Good for him.
This particular business.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are you really good at?
What am I really good at? I would say the thing that I love doing and that I'm especially talented at is like being able to see the forest for the trees, to take all the little details. I'm a trained strategist, so for many, many years, I worked on the agency side as a strategist, creative strategist, media, marketing, and so my brain has been trained to think like a strategist, which as you know is like it's very simple. Like, where are we now? Where do we want to go? And then how do we get there?
Right.
And I'm really good at like assessing a situation, operating with ambiguity, making a plan. I used to say I like see big ideas and get shit done. It's like, what are we trying to do? Mm-hmm. Let's create a vision for where we're trying to get to and figure out like what is the plan we need to put in place in order to get to that place, and then actually execute. I have a really high sort of inclination towards execution, like really high bar. Yeah. I set really high expectations, and I'm like, okay, there's no reason to not execute flawlessly, no matter what we're doing. So it's like the strategic sort of mindset, and then the executional.
And having that follow through.
The follow through, for sure.
Which is so important. How did you discover that this is something that you were good at? Or has this always been, these are always traits that you've had that you've known are strengths?
I mean, I think I think that's just my natural tendencies. Like, I found a few years ago, I found a notebook from high school in my parents' basement. It was like all my notes for my science class. And it was like color coded and beautiful drawings. And it was like a study guide. And I had like laid it all out. And I think I always just kind of like, that's my comfort zone. I personally, I'm like very good at operating with ambiguity, but I don't like ambiguity. I like to fix ambiguity. And so I always need to have a plan, and it always needs to be very, very clearly laid out. I have a really hard time functioning in environments where people aren't making plans, you know, and or not following plans.
Interesting. No, that makes sense. What do you think has been the most pivotal moment in your career?
Pivotal moment in my career. I mean, this one, taking this,
pretty big one.
I would say, like, if you were to ask me 20 years from now, I would probably point to this moment, like pivoting from a career built in marketing and advertising, agency brand side, to running a small business in this very sort of physical, tactical space. That's probably the biggest career pivot I think I've ever made. The other one that was really monumental for me was quitting my job on the agency side. I did that in late 2018, so pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. I'd always had this idea that I could do well as a consultant, and but I had never like actually taken any steps to make it happen. And I just had become so I had been at this agency for over 11 years, a long, long time in one place, and a lot had changed around me, and my job had changed, you know, over the years, and I just wasn't jazzed at all about what I was doing anymore. And literally one day I just woke up and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Let me take a leap. And I went in and I quit to my boss. That day.
Wow.
And then
good for you.
I came home from work that day and said, holy shit. What the fuck did I just do? I had three little kids. I had a newborn. The little one was like 10 months old at the time. Wow. And my other kids were 6 and 4. And yeah, it was just a kind of a rash decision. Luckily, because I quit in that way, I wasn't going anywhere else. I told my boss that I would stay as long as she needed me. So I did end up staying for another like 4 or 5 months after that. So I did give myself a little bit of a runway where I was like still employed for a while. It was almost like a non-severance. So it was like made it a little bit less scary. But it definitely was, it changed the trajectory of my career.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I believe it.
You know, being a consultant that was like 6.5 years ago or so. So over the 6.5 years, I've had one full-time job in between for a small amount of time, but I've spent most of that time consulting. And working as a consultant actually has taught me business skills that are very useful to me in what I'm doing now at this family business.
I believe it.
In addition to just like paving my own path, giving me access to opportunities that I never would have had otherwise. It was definitely probably very stupid and very scary at many points along the way, but was on balance, I think the right move for me.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
What relationship has been most impactful on you professionally?
Professional relationship. I think you might know this person, Lee Micon, if you remember him. We used to work together. So Lee was my boss, and he wasn't my first boss. I had another boss at this agency that I worked at for a long time. She was and still is a wonderful mentor to me. She's a hard ass, And she was really my first ever real boss. And she was my boss for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something, 3 or 4 years. My direct boss, and I worked for her. I got layered. Lee was put like in between us. But I worked indirectly for her for like almost 12 years, 11 years, something like that. But she was only my boss for about 4 of those years. And she taught me so much about, of like how to engage in the workplace, how to do my job. But she's a very intense kind of person. And I learned a lot from her. And then when I got layered and Lee was hired and Lee became my boss, he's just like the polar opposite in so many ways. He, at first I was like, why is he just like walking the halls so much? He just seems like to be like wandering around,
Yep.
Was just so chill. And it took me a while because he was so different from her. He ended up being my boss for probably about 6 years. And I learned from him so much about how to be an empathetic leader and how to lead by influence instead of by directive. So many soft skills that I just, especially in contrast to the leadership style that I had before,
right.
Like seeing those two kind of sides of the coin was just created like a lot of growth in me at a young age.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do remember him being very relaxed.
Very chill.
Yeah.
Very relaxed. Nothing ever ruffled him, really.
Yeah.
He never got mad. And at first I was like, no, what?
Yeah, like where's the energy?
Where's the energy? Yeah. But his energy came in different ways and was so powerful. And it just taught me a lot about the different ways to be and how there are so many different ways to lead and to influence and to get the job done.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so tell us who you are and tell us about your business.
Okay. My name is Orli LeWinter. I am now the Chief Business and Marketing Officer at a company called Sign Expo. We're in the signage industry. So there's a lot of chatter these days, I think, about boring businesses and how boring businesses are actually like where it's at.
Yeah.
I have totally found that. For so many years, I was like, oh, I don't want to be in the signage business. It's a family business. So it's been in my life for decades. Right. And, I was in like marketing, advertising, like fun brands, cool companies, doing cool creative work, going to Cannes and South by Southwest, like all the fun stuff. And signage did not really seem like that cool or fun to me. And spoiler alert, like it's kind of awesome.
So I know you mentioned before that a lot of your decision had to do with where your dad is at and, giving him this retirement. But professionally or creatively, let's even say, what drew you to thinking now is the right time to make this decision?
Yeah. Well, couple things. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer back in the spring of 2023. And after going through like some treatment and surgery in that summer of 2023, 2024, not 2023, okay. 2024. So last summer, when I sort of picked my head back up and said like, okay, I'm back in the game. Let me figure out what I'm going to do now, because I had taken some time off of work. I just like took stock of my priorities and what I wanted from my life. And I realized that I had this opportunity to like run a business, make of it what I wanted, take ownership of something. And, frankly, marketing and advertising, like you age out. you can age out. I mean, you can also grow old in the industry, but it's not easy, especially for a woman.
Yeah.
And, this is a business that I'm not going to age out of. And I had, as I was saying before, the opportunities that I got when I was consulting really sort of set me up and taught me a lot about how to run a business. And I had gotten a taste of what it felt like. So the previous role that I had was as a consulting engagement as the CMO at Heyday Skincare, facials company. And that experience really gave me a taste of what it's like to run a business, run a small business, medium-sized business. But I was like, this is fun. I can do marketing, but I can also do P&L and business management and growth strategy and all of the other stuff. And I found that I really, really liked that stuff, and I wanted to be doing more of it, that my creative, that the creativity that I brought to all my roles on the advertising side actually could be applied in these other ways that were even more rewarding than like making ad campaigns.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. You mentioned before that you don't love ambiguity. Do you not find there's a lot of ambiguity in running a business?
There's a lot of uncertainty.
Okay.
And there's a lot of anxiety around, revenue and, not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks like a normal employee.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of uncertainty, but there is very little ambiguity because I'm able to make the plans.
Yeah. Fair.
And then put them in motion.
Fair. You know where you're going.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to go.
Know exactly where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what we need to do to get there. And it's just about executing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I think running a business, building a business, there's so much creativity that's involved. And I think oftentimes people think of it more as like the financial aspects, P&L management, like these structural operational things. And it is those things, yes, but then how you creatively apply them and evolve them and change those aspects to be able to scale, it's all creative strategic thinking.
Yeah, 100%.
That's amazing.
And it's not something that it took me a long time to come around to that. Like I said, it's been 25 years that this business has been in my family, and it took me 25 years to say, you know what? This actually could be really good for me.
Yeah, yeah. So what does the average day look like right now?
So we're, as a signage company, we design, fabricate, and install signage. So it's a lot more technical than a role than I have ever had before. And so that's the major learning curve for me is like, what are all the materials?
Yeah.
What are all the ways we could solve this problem? Client comes to us and says, well, I want this kind of sign or I want it to look like this or feel like this, like the technical aspect of how you create that and build it. And, we have fabricators who are literally like, they're craftspeople. They're making things. Like we have machines in the workshop that are printing things. Like it's a highly, highly technical industry, in addition to it being very creative. So, typical day, it's a client service business. So we have clients, and so there's a lot of like client communication. Most of that happens at the PM level at the company, but I work with the PMs to like help them evolve and grow how they're nurturing clients. And then we're literally doing like site surveys. Yesterday I was on a site survey for a new restaurant, measuring, talking to the restaurant owner about his vision and like what he wants for the signage. It's on 23rd Street, so there are landmark regulations that we need to be, I'm learning all of this stuff. Like, what are the landmarks regulations, and then how do you get creative within those? And so, we had this meeting, basically like spitballing like what we could do for him. Then, you go back to the office and, do like estimate how much that's going to cost, write up a proposal. So that's the typical day to day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so different than what you were doing before.
So different. But, it's like a lot of our clients I would say most of our clients are based in New York City. We also service them in, all over the country. So let's say like Italy is a big client of ours. We do the signage for 23rd Street, Flatiron, but they're also opening in Miami. So we're doing Miami, that they have at LA. We do some stuff for LA. But mostly it's New York based. And, when I walk around the streets, it's like, oh, we did that. And it's cool. Like we're really leaving our mark on the city, which feels really special.
That's really cool. What's the single biggest thing you've learned so far?
Single biggest thing I've learned so far, that billing is not the same as cash flow.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's always a fun part.
Ding, ding.
Yep. Yeah, I had to learn that lesson too. Yeah. It's like, oh, things look great. And then
things look great.
Oh my God, no one has paid us. Yeah. Actually, things don't look great. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good one. How do you think your leadership styles has had to shift coming into this new role? Or has it not?
I'm very sort of secure in who I am. And while I know you need to like modulate yourself in the way you interact in various situations, I am really always true to myself. However, I'm working in an environment that is very different than any other environment I've been in. And most of the people who work at the company are like physical hands-on workers.
Yep.
And it's just a different personality type. They are used to working in very different, they're not used to working in like an office environment where you sit and you have meetings and, it's...
You take your calls and go to the conference room.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's just, and they're not highly educated. They have a lot of technical expertise, but they're not like, white collar professionals. And so for the most part. And so in that sense, it's just a different kind of person and a different kind of environment that I'm working with. So I've had to learn just sort of like how they function and what their expectations are.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And how has your dad been having you involved? Does he love it?
He loves it.
Is he ready?
So.
Is he ready to
like it.
Is he ready to hand over the reins?
No, I mean, I don't know if you've ever, if any of your parents or relatives or know anybody who like gets to that age as a business owner and has had, their hands on the reins for so many years, it is practically impossible for them to let go.
Yeah.
So he's not ready to let go, but he is very excited about evolving the business for the next stage and leaning on me to do that. And I think he understands that like he's not going to do this forever. And so there has to be some kind of plan, I don't think he'll step away, but he's starting to see like, oh, well, what if I could go away on vacation for a month?
Yeah.
Which he's never done.
Yeah. My dad has built and sold a couple businesses and is sort of a serial entrepreneurial type. And he is now in this phase of like kind of figuring out what's next. And he's jokingly calling it his purposeless life. Because he's like, I don't know what to do with myself. This is so different. And I think he already has like 3 other projects lined up. But I think when you're so used to doing that, which is why I ask, of like being the one with the reins and making the decisions and driving things forward, how do you stop really doing that? It's not like you just turn that off.
Yeah. But I think it's the realization that the business will not if you don't figure out how to do it, the business will not survive if something happens.
That's fair.
And that's a scary realization.
Yeah.
And so, you realize that like you have to make these plans.
Right.
Like you have to figure it out.
Yeah, and figure out what the next chapter looks like. Yeah. So at 21, did you ever think you'd be doing this?
No, not in a million years. Not in a million years.
What did you think you'd be doing?
At 21,
Yeah.
I thought I would be writing the next great American novel.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you still want to write a book?
I do. And
Yeah.
actually,
You
my plan is to write a book about this experience.
Yeah, you should.
You know, what does it look like to pivot your career, take over a family business, navigate these challenges?
Right.
You know, it's
And, like,
part business book, part memoir.
Yes.
I have a plan.
And like a legacy New York City business that, you have to.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I will get
Amazing.
around to writing something.
What's one thing you wish that you knew earlier in your career that you know now?
That a career takes strategy.
Yeah.
You know, I spent so much time and energy doing strategy for my clients and the brands I was working with, and it literally never occurred to me that I needed to think about my career strategically. I think I was lulled into submission by being in a great job at a great company
Right.
for a very long time. And so I was like, I convinced myself, or I didn't even have to think about it. I was like, yeah, I'm making a great money, having so much fun.
Right. I like it. I'm
I love
happy.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it didn't force me to think about my career in any kind of strategic terms.
Yeah.
And I wish someone had told me. I don't know that I would have believed them or listened to them, but that's something I wish I would have known.
That's a good one. Where can people find you?
I have a very unique name, so literally just Google it. Go on LinkedIn, search for my name, you will find me. But do you mean like
And if they
in
need
the real world?
if they need a sign, where do they
If they
find
need
you?
a sign,
Yeah.
yes. Signexpo.com.
Amazing.
Our website needs a little bit of work, but we'll get there.
You will. You will.
That's a project I'm very excited about,
Yeah,
actually.
that would
But
be
yes,
fun.
you can still find us there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Was
This was so
great.
fun.
It was great. All right. So you guys can find us on Instagram at namedrop.pod, and I'm at Malbakes. Thanks so much.